The No Money But Dreams podcast is for those millennial dreamers
who try to be in the top 1%.
It doesn't matter what we've achieved.
We wake up every morning with the mindset that we're still broke,
We welcome you on our journey in search of that home run.
which can change everything.
Everything?
Everything.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 39 of the No Money But Dreams podcast. Today, I am here with my co-host, Mr. Tarik Chebib, the CEO of Capital.com. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much for coming once again on our podcast.
Yes. Thank you for hosting me.
Today, we want to talk about something which is basically, you have strengths and you have weaknesses. And there's a lot of different thoughts around what should you focus on. Should you focus on your strengths and sharpen that pencil, or should you focus on weaknesses and then better have maybe like a better well-rounded skill set? Both of us obviously have different perspectives. You obviously working in a massive corporation where you're a CEO of the Middle East, and me, multiple different kind of smaller businesses dealing with less complicated knowledge workers, I would say, and more staff in kitchens and things like that. But there's very important takeaways on both sides, not only for building teams, how do you build a team, but also for ourselves, our personal self-development, which is something that we take really seriously and we talk about a lot. So there's a debate, obviously, around what to focus on. Is it your strengths or is it your weaknesses? In your opinion, what do you do, or what advice would you give people when it comes to this kind of debate?
For me, the most important thing is strength. I want to know, what are your strengths? What are you really good at? Better than anyone else. And then I want to know how I can use those strengths to achieve something in particular. So let me give you an example. For me, I know that I'm good at sales and I'm good at marketing, right? I'm not good at compliance, finance, back office, all the organizational kind of tasks that are around me, right? And I understand them, but I'm not going to try and do them myself. It would be a disaster. I much rather hire someone that is an expert in those fields than wasting my time trying to catch up with someone that has had 10 years experience in that field, right? So I'm firmly in the camp of go and develop your strength and forget about your weaknesses, and just go and get deeper and deeper and deeper into mastering 1, 2, 3 specific skills so that you can really shine. Because no one cares about you messing up 10, 15, 20 times. They all care about that one skill or that one home run that you are producing, right? And you can't really do that if you're not super good at something.
Mm. And how long does it take for you to get super good at something, in your opinion, in your experience? Obviously, you've been doing this business and you've been in this role in the financial service industry.
I've been doing this industry for 12 years, right? And the first few years was just getting more experience, exposing yourself until you get to a point where, you know a thing or two. And then you have the problem that the market keeps evolving, and it's not just the same thing that you could do 3 years ago or pre-COVID, you can't do anymore, right? The market adjusts. So you have to stay agile. It's not like you know a skill and then you can just run with it. The upgrades are so quick now, whether it's tech or whatever it is. In marketing, you have to stay ahead of the game. So you need to learn until you see a situation where you can say, okay, I know the situation, let's try it this way. And you still don't know whether you're going to get out ahead. But if you don't build those skills for those moments, you almost have no chance.
Yeah. I think I really struggle with the fact that obviously when you're going to start a business, you kind of have to wear everybody's hat, right? You need to know accounting, you need to know sales, you need to know marketing, you need to know operations. But as I've gotten older and I've been able to obviously hire people to do certain parts of the business, I'm trying to figure out what am I really good at. I think that's important. But you also
marketing.
Exactly, I know. But but you also, what are you passionate about? Like maybe you're good at something, but you don't enjoy it. So it's a chore. And yes, you're right. Yeah, marketing is something that for me comes naturally. I enjoy, and it's not a chore. Like when I spend time creating content or thinking about strategies or trying to identify problems that people have in other businesses that I'm looking at doing their marketing for, it just comes naturally. But it's taken some time to realize that. Like even in the beginning, yeah, with Burger 28, I was creating content and I understood how to create like hooks and how to get people's attention. But I didn't hone in on it as early as I should have. You know, I didn't appreciate that I was good at a certain skill. So I think sometimes people need to have a little nudge or get an objective opinion of what they're good at. You know, like whether that's from a friend or whether that's from a spouse or whether that's from your parents. You know, sometimes you think that you're really good or you should be doing something, but in reality, you have a completely different skill set.
Yeah, getting feedback, I 100% agree. What is even more important is that people don't give up. Yeah, I mean, you started out with promoting your burger shops, right? That's where you started out with social media 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago.
7 years ago, right? And then you went down the influencer route, and then you started doing your own kind of social media. So you've had many different iterations of social media to get to the point now where you can advise other businesses and help other businesses to get much better, right? But that took a long time and a lot of content and a lot of different trials and errors, right?
Yeah.
How many people give up after, 2 months, 3 months in, or even a month in because they don't see any traction at the beginning
and don't see any results?
Exactly. Same with my LinkedIn thing, right? I mean, there's many weeks where I don't go viral and I have 2, 3, 5, 10,000 views on a post. And a lot of people would get discouraged because the week before I had a post that had 250,000 views, right? If you get hung up on the views, then you're just not going to put in the effort. You just have to say like, you're going to publish one post a day on one reel a day, regardless of what is happening in your life. Right?
Yeah.
So that's super important to keep going. Otherwise, you're not going to develop a strength into something that you can actually use as a competitive advantage, whether it's in your business or in your job.
For me, what's been really important is to build self-confidence. You know what I mean? Obviously, in portraying to anybody watching, they would assume that everybody who puts themselves out there is confident. But the truth is you do question yourself at times, right? You know, whether what you're doing makes sense, does it align, what are people saying? Whether that's in the comments, for example, or when you're in a meeting and somebody makes a joke about you creating content or something like that. But I was listening to a founder's podcast about JD Rockefeller. And why was it so important to me, him particularly? Because when I was in New York like 2 weeks ago, I went to Rockefeller Tower. And I kind of stumbled upon it because we were just like walking around aimlessly in New York City. And then you just see how immense and beautiful this building is. And then you Google when it was built. And you think, Jesus, man, this guy, it's like 100 years ago. This guy was that successful. So listening to some of the tips that he was giving his son, one of the key things was self-confidence and self-doubt. And I think that as you get older, you obviously build that confidence. But it's mandatory to believe in yourself no matter what's going on. You know, believe that you're capable of achieving whatever your goals are and not really listening to the noise around you. You know, some of it positive, some of it negative. You don't want to get a really big head. You don't want to become a narcissist. But at the same time, you can't let somebody's opinion come into you and pollute your brain.
The question is, how do you build this confidence, right? You need to go, in my opinion, you need to go as early as possible, expose yourself to as many things as possible, and be ready to fail at many different things, right? Because the confidence that we have now, we didn't have this 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago.
Hey, speak for yourself.
No, I mean, it got just like anyone else. You get out of university, you get the first kind of 2, 3 jobs, 2, 3 years under your belt, and you just do whatever you're told, right? And then you start figuring things out and you become more confident. But the problem is if you're only doing your job and don't do anything else, how are you going to get all the experience that you need to then stand in front of someone and defend your ideas and have the guts to go after something 100%, right? That's my problem. That's why a lot of people fall short, because they don't have that chip on their shoulder where they have enough experience in something. They went really deep and say, I'm just going to do this now.
How did you develop your confidence? Like when you went from IG to Pepperstone and then Pepperstone to Capital, like you've had a really beautiful progressive like move in your career. Starting, I think in IG, you started just on the desk as a trader.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, that's just work. Like some people get confidence out of work environments, and that's fine. But I think with me, that started in a very different environment. I mean, I worked for my parents since I was young. So by the time I started university, I had worked 7, 8 years already, right? So that already gave you, I had a lot of confidence going in. And the other thing that gave me huge confidence is basketball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you play
I have to tell the story. I tell it every single time.
Go
You're
on.
like a professional basketball player. I'm like, okay, bro. Like, yeah, and like nice in conversation. Then we were in LA and you just shot three-pointer. I'm like, hey, you're good. You're like, bro, I told you I played professional basketball.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, the basketball thing is, I don't know, I played from 6 to 23 nonstop. It was my everyday, right? I had so many battles, so many losses, so many missed shots, so many summers grinding, trying to get better, I was never, the best guy. There was always people that were better than me, selected over me, all of that. This underdog mentality and just having to work for what you're going to get builds a lot of confidence at some point. You don't realize it when you're just playing, right? But now looking back in team environments and the corporate environment, it gives you such an edge where, work is just work. Yeah, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out how to move certain things into the right places. But you got to come in and build this chip on your shoulder and develop your strength. And that's really where I took this from, because, I was never the best shooter, but I was very good at guarding the best player on the opposing team and distributing the ball and making put others in the right positions to score, right? So I knew my skill set there and I went after this. And
Self-awareness, basically.
yeah, everyone knew that, whoever has a hot hand on the other team, let's switch. Let me just go full court on him.
And just make his life super difficult.
Exactly. And so I knew that skill, but I would never be the guy that takes 10 threes in a game. That's just not.
So it was fluke in LA then.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, now that's not competitive basketball anymore, right? But if you play competitively, you got to know your role on the team. And there's lots of people that aren't actually good shooters or, they don't actually have specific skills that you look at. They're not the scorer. They're
not
defender.
superstars.
Yeah, exactly. But they know their role so well and they play it so well. That's why they get contract after contract after contract.
Yeah.
Right?
They just do the job. What it says on the can, they get it done.
Exactly. And now for me, I said sales and marketing, but really it's to grow something from nothing. Right.
Yeah.
And I get excited about this. And so that I'm a gun for hire in that kind of department. And that's like, why would I now try and be someone that I'm not, right? I'm just going to try and get better and better and better. And okay, now I've got 10 years experience, of which 5 are more senior, but imagine where I will be in 10 more years.
Yeah.
Right. I would have honed down and the market would look completely different, but I would have seen many, many different scenarios. And the only thing that I hope is that, obviously when there's 15, 20-year veterans in an industry, there's a lot of people that get cocky and say, oh, I've always done it this way. We're going to do it that way. And
big mistake.
I'm very keen about this and try to distance myself from that thinking. And I'm acutely aware to not do this myself. And it's very easy to fall into that trap because, in my position, there's a lot of people that look at you and whatever you say, you will then do, right? Having people around you that are challenging you and don't allow you to fall into this trap, and you yourself to step back and not be the first one talking and let other people contribute and make sure that you're really going for the best outcome in that situation and not just pushing through your idea is really important.
Yeah, I think when a lot of people get experience and they get knowledge, they stop listening and just want to talk all the time. Like they're the most important person in the room. Their thoughts are more important than everybody else's.
I have that issue.
Yeah.
I had that issue. I remember, I will never forget this. When we went to CAS on the first weekend, there was this thing where they put us into a group and they filmed us for half an hour. There was this teamwork kind of exercise. We had to build houses out of paper and then sell them, right? And we had to figure out how to build the houses. We had limited materials and all that kind of stuff. They filmed us and I spoke 28 out of 30 minutes.
Damn.
It was, when I saw that on camera, I couldn't believe it. I didn't feel like I was talking that much on the camera, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you go back, you do the same exercise again. And I held myself back. I didn't talk for ages, right? And I got so frustrated not being able to talk and not being able to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
Right? And that has kind of like been throughout my career. I'm always going to be a vocal kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right? But I think if you would ask my team, there'd be a lot of people saying that, you know, I tend to try and take over the conversation and all that kind of stuff. Right? That's just how I am naturally. And that's how I try and lead. And it's very difficult for me sometimes.
But honestly,
not to
I
do
feel
this.
I've seen a progression just watching you objectively. I feel like you do listen more than you used to. Like I do. You don't think so?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know that this is
Something you need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I also have the same issue. I just have a lot of ideas, and when you get excited, you want to express them. But as you get a bit older, it's the younger people who are going to come with the bright idea. It's the younger people who are going to see trends which play in. I mean, over your 10 years experience, the brokerage industry has changed dramatically, I assume, from how to acquire customers. And even after COVID, what kind of people are trading on these platforms? It's a much younger demographic than it was before, or would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean,
Is customer acquisition exactly the same?
it's not the same, no. There's different channels, different ways to communicate in these channels. But yeah, the point stands that that's one of the things that I'm aware of. And this is the first thing, right? You need to be aware of your strengths, but also your kind of weaknesses. And that can be a weakness if you kind of exclude other people's opinions. And I try to combat those weaknesses by hiring really strong individuals that give you stick and that come back to you and don't just
And disagree with you.
yeah disagree with you. I don't want yes and amen kind of people in the office. I want people that tell me, like in the last week I had 2 people really challenge stuff in the corporate environment, and I love that. You know, and they're just a week in. That's amazing. You know, if someone like I will respect you a lot more if you come in and challenge me than if you just sit there quiet and don't really get involved.
But I think there's also a lot of leaders or a lot of people in corporate hierarchy situations where if they do challenge the person on top, then actually it's going to backfire on them. So how do you cultivate that? Like, how do you make it an open space for people to voice their opinions transparently?
Yeah. One of the people that came to me, she works in a global team, but she sits with us in the Dubai office. And she was worried about how her team was going to react to the situation. And I was applauding her for coming to me and highlighting these issues. And I said, if you find more issues, come to me.
Yeah.
I want to challenge them. If you're not here to challenge them and make things better, then what's the point in being here?
Yeah.
So
I had a really interesting conversation with somebody who worked in Amazon in the US. He still works there now. And he was saying that even from day one, when you come into Amazon, you can challenge your superior.
Yeah, it's about data. It's not about what your rank is.
Exactly. So if you can come in and you can build a case, then someone at the very, very top will listen to you. And I think that's a major takeaway that a lot of people need to put in. I mean, for me, it's a bit difficult. Like, let's say Burger 28, for example. Like, the chances of somebody who's on the cooking line coming and challenging something that I've said is really low. So it's very difficult to cultivate that. But I try my best to build a communication channel where we joke around and, you know, how they can feel that they can talk to me about something. And that's kind of how I go about it.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to strengths and weaknesses, we've covered that. But now we're both kind of building teams in the respective fields.
No, but I want to know from you first.
Tell me.
Your strength. What do you think your strengths are? And what do you do with the weaknesses?
My strengths, in my opinion, is definitely communicating. I think I'm a good communicator. I feel comfortable on camera. I think that I can understand like a broad range of what's going on in a business. I understand accounting, I understand marketing, I understand sales, I understand operation. Legal. I understand all of that. I understand how to get a deal done. And I feel that like I'm someone who I don't burn any bridges, no matter what. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important. Like, I actually had a revelation this morning. I can't go into details, but there was an individual who, like, potentially there could be a bridge burnt because I was working with somebody else or something, but it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Just maintain who you are and maintain those relationships, because you never know when you might need them. You know, not in a way where you're profiting always. Of course, there's this push and pull of having some sort of interest in everything. But I think that's really important. And then my weakness, I would say, is my organization. I'm not that organized. I'm organized, but I'm not as organized as I could be because I'm doing so many things. Like I was hiring for executive assistants. So I was actually doing so I've seen this weakness, sorry. And I know that I need to deal with it. I need to schedule my day. I need to have somebody who's doing that. So I was actually looking at people outside of the UAE. So the executive assistants I'm looking to hire are in the Philippines. So I've done maybe 20, 25 interviews. One person's already working with me. I'm looking at some other people as well. But the person who is working with me so far has streamlined my calendar in such an important way, because I'll have a revelation in the morning and then by lunchtime I've forgotten that I booked a meeting or something like that. Not everything is synced in, for example, in my Google Calendar and all of that. So that puts me behind. So that's one thing I'm working on. Another weakness which I believe I have is running around to see too many people in one day. You know how I come down from Abu Dhabi, I go to Dubai, and then I need to see you, I need to see this person, I need to see this person. How do you block out times so that that is a 1 hour or a 2 hour, meeting? It doesn't go on to like 3 or 4 or something like that. So organization is my biggest problem. Besides that, I think I'm pretty strong in a lot of fields, and I can give a lot of value to whatever business or whatever individual is required.
Okay, you're a generalist, but what do you think is actually your biggest strength?
My biggest strength, I would say, is my ability to understand where consumers' attention is. And that obviously feeds into marketing and messaging and things like that. But it doesn't mean I'm not honing that. It doesn't mean I'm not reading books about that. It doesn't mean I'm not listening to podcasts. As you said, you need to constantly work on that. But I think that's only in the past 2 years that I've said, you know what, that's what you're actually good at. Double down on that. Start offering those services to people. At the moment, it's a small set of people, and the type of work that I do is very specialist and very focused. And I don't want to like make an agency or something like that. I really want to choose the customers I work with, because it's not only about your time, number one, but it's also working on businesses which you actually care about. Like I'm interested in investing, I'm interested in trading. Therefore, working with capital is a pleasure, to be in that industry. There's another company which I work with who focus on interior design and fit out. I really enjoy that, creating the interior design, watching the fit out and all of that. So I'm trying to be very selective on who I do. But one important thing for me is, obviously, when you start your own business or you become an entrepreneur, you're basically trying to buy your freedom, right? Freedom from who you want to hang out with, what you want to do, how you want to spend your time. I think the next tier of freedom is where you want to be in the world. So I don't really want to build a business that I can't operate or scale from anywhere in the world. So that's something which I'm very, very acutely aware of. And I don't want to fall into a trap like a Burger 28. Not a trap, but where you really have to be in the business physically. Yes, you can go on holiday and stuff like that, but the business is suffering every day you're not really there.
Highly self-aware.
I try to be.
Yeah, no, that's very good. That's very good. Right. I think this will be it for this episode. I think everyone else should think about this. What are your strengths that you have really developed where you're better than anyone else? Go out and develop them even more. And that's what people ultimately will pay you for, or where you can create a niche and create your own kind of business from.
I also think another tip for anybody who's a founder or somebody who's starting their own business is solve rich people's problems and get paid rich people's wages. Solve poor people's problems, get paid poor people's wages.
Yep.
So see what you're really good at. What are your strengths? Work on those strengths, but try and solve problems that people are willing to pay for, because there's a lot of problems that people might not be so willing to pay what's worth your time. And then what do you value? You know what I mean? Do you value working with this individual in this industry? Figure that out and everything will be much easier, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. See you next time, guys.